Alright. It's something people want. Yeah.
Coordinated effort.
It was definitely.
At 6 p.m. Arthur, can you provide information about participating?
Yes. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is available on this meeting agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org, and printed copies in the back of this room. Remote commenters will be muted until it is your turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. In the room, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. And consistent with the First Amendment and the Brown Act, individuals have the right to speak at public meetings, which includes the right to criticize or support city policies or actions. The city encourages your uninhibited and robust feedback on public issues affecting the city. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Hey, Parker, can you do roll call, please?
Yes. Abuhita Oaks, present. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oak Knoll.
Here.
Deer Flats. Here. Del Monte Beach.
Here.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande. Here. Downtown. Here. Fisherman's Flats.
Here.
Glenwood.
Here.
Monterey Vista.
Here.
Thank you. New Monterey.
Here.
Oak Grove.
Yes.
Thank you. Old Town.
Here.
Skyline. Good evening. Villa Del Monte.
Here.
Thank you. And we have quorum.
Okay, great. We're gonna move on to general public comments. This is a call for public comments on matters that are not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the NCIP. Is there anyone present here who would like to make a general comment? Raise your hand, please. Anyone online?
None online.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close general comment and move on to the next section of the meeting's agenda. That would be approval of minutes. So do we need to go over the dates or? All right, so when I call for approval or comments or modifications, the minutes of any or all meetings held on November 12th, 2025, November 19th, 2025, December 10th, 2025, December 17th, 2025, January 14th, 2026, and January 21st, 2026. Let me get a motion to approve.
Well, I make a motion that we approve minutes at all of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Parker, can you do roll call vote?
Yes. Aguajita Oaks. Aye. Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Beach.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
I was here, but not as the rep, so am I allowed to approve? Okay,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you. New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove.
Aye.
Thank you. Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline. Yes, please. And Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So we'll move on to informational reports and staff comments. So I will call the city staff for any presentations of informational reports.
I do not have an informational report at this time.
And then next we have NCIP informational reports. I do not have any informational reports at this time as well. So we'll start off with our first public appearance item. Adopt NCIP committee meetings and deadlines schedule for development of the fiscal year 2026/2027 neighborhood and community improvement. And adopt.
Okay, Chair, thank you very much. Just give me a moment here to get everything set up. All right, thank you. So tonight, everyone, we're here for the NCIP orientation meeting. We have, I think, four public appearance items to go over tonight. So the first of those four is we are gonna revise the agenda. I'm sorry, not revise the meeting schedule. And we have a proposed update to project deadline, NCIP project deadline as well. Some of these updates are just due to the fact that we had to push this meeting back approximately a month. And there also will be a delay in the city council guidance provided to the NCIP committee and the in public. So what you can see here is the updated proposed changes are in green for the NCIP committee. So we're having this meeting tonight, June 10th. This was a special meeting because the original date got pushed. And then we're proposing to have on the calendar a tentative meeting July 29th if we need it. And we're proposing moving the project submission deadline from what was originally July 31st, 2 weeks to August 14th. And then we're maintaining, the other change will be the city council guidance will be provided on June 7th and that, July 7th, sorry, and that got moved because city council has moved the approval of this year's, FY27 budget to June 16th. So a couple things got adjusted, council meeting agendas and so on. So that's the presentation, and I don't know if you have any questions.
Okay, so open it up to committee questions, just clarifying questions at this time.
The rest of the calendar looks as though we're doing projects.
Microphone.
You shut that.
So the rest of the calendar for the year looks like we're planning on the nominating projects. And so I might have missed an email, but I guess I thought we were waiting to hear what was going to happen with the proposal that the city use the 26-27 money, in which case we wouldn't do any of this.
So as of right now, the proposal is for council to use $3.5 million, reappropriate $3.5 million of the NCIP funding for this upcoming FY27, which would leave roughly $2.5 million available for the committee to recommend projects. So there would be roughly $2.5 million in the fund available for projects.
26-27. And
Yes.
that assuming that they are then releasing the 20, whatever you want to call it, the frozen funds from the last large.
So all of this is based on the assumption that there will be funding available. Yes. So if that changes on June 16th, then we can change the schedule. But as of right now, we're operating on the information that we have.
I'm referring to the, I don't know what to call it, the pre-25-26 approved projects, that fund, bunch of money that got frozen with the recommendation that this next year's be used. So I don't see in any of the paperwork, any of how that's all playing out. So that's kind of my question. And there's a calendar that it's hard to know if I agree with it or not, because I don't know any of those details. Does anybody know the details?
I understand.
We will.
Our understanding is on June 16th, we'll know for a fact because council will then approve the budget and the recommendation of the $3.5 million from the next fiscal year. That means that any of the projects that you voted on or that were supposed to be frozen will not be frozen and will continue to be in the NCIP program.
So the underlying assumption is that the 26-27 funding will take the place of the other solution that had,
That's my understanding as of today, yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I wanted to add also that I believe on August, we're planning to have a joint council and CIP meeting, but I'll confirm that.
Yeah, that has been confirmed by city clerk's office and city manager's office. So that is one of the dates listed.
Any other clarifying questions from the committee? No, we have to go to public. We'll close committee questions and open for public comment. Is there anyone present here who has a public comment on this topic? Raise your hand. Seeing none, any online?
None online.
So we'll go ahead and close public comment and open for committee discussion. Any discussion or motions?
Will we accept the schedule?
I'll make a motion that we accept the schedule that has been placed before.
Okay, so we'll be Skyline as the first and then Glenwood as second. You can have any other discussions, or we can move on to roll call.
Let's move on to roll call.
Abuelita Oaks.
Aye.
Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oaknoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Yes.
Amani Beach.
Aye.
Damani Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
I think I'm going to abstain because I don't really agree with the way this is going forward. I think there are way too many question marks to actually vote on a calendar right now, but I understand why you're doing it.
Okay. New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove.
Aye.
Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline.
Yes, please.
And Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So we'll move on to the next item.
Okay, and 1 second to set up. So next is item 9, which is the presentation, the orientation presentation. So this will just be a general overview for everyone, cover main topics on kind of committee responsibilities and just general information on the NCIP program. So just to recap, the program was created in 1988, and it's detailed in in the city charter, section 6.6D. The program is funded through 16% of the annual transit occupancy tax, TOT, budgeted for capital projects to improve the residential neighborhoods or projects of community-wide benefit. And capital projects include things like street improvements, storm drains, sewers, sidewalks, lighting, traffic control devices, public buildings, recreational facilities, parks, and so on. They do not include ordinary services or maintenance, as we've talked about in the past. Some of the requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. So these meetings have to meet the requirements of the Brown Act. It governs meetings conducted by local bodies, including this committee, facilitates public participation in local government deliberations and decisions. Specifically for the NCIP committee, since there are 15 members that can vote, you can't have a group of 8 get together at any time for any reason unless it's agendized and published. An agenda requires a 72-hour advance notice for a regular meeting or 24 hours for a special meeting. And the Brown Act requires that items be discussed or considered they have to be listed on the agenda. And we have to take public comment before we can make a decision. The mayor is the city council liaison. Sorry, yes, for this committee, and the mayor, and I should have updated this, and they've developed a committee for interviews that would go before the city council for appointment. And currently, there's a two-year appointment cycle. City council reviews and approves NCIP committee candidates and makes decisions based on, and then the council will appoint. NCIP committee members, so kind of some of the expectations, right? You'll meet with your neighborhood residents, you'll review NCIP nomination forms, you will attend these meetings, and you will vote to make recommendations to city council. You have to complete your required ethics training, the first one within 1 year of your initial appointment, and then every 2 years thereafter. And that's approximately 2 hours. And then you have to also complete anti-harassment training, the first one within 6 months of appointment, and then every 2 years thereafter. There's also the Fair Political Practices Commission requirements. So everyone on this committee has to complete a Form 700. You have to complete one at your appointment annually and at your end of your term and or resignation. This has been kind of something that turns out been an issue. So you have to complete a Form 700 when you resign for any reason. You don't feel like being on the committee anymore. Your health you end up in poor health. Or you're termed out. Whatever it is, you have to complete a Form 700. And for some reason, people don't think they need to, but you have to. The other thing that the FPPC has governance over is the conflict of interest rules. So there's a 500-foot rule. So if there's a project within 500 foot of your residence or property you own, you're generally it's a conflict of interest, and you cannot vote or deliberate on those projects. If you have a property within 500 and 1,000 feet of a project, then there can be some exceptions to the conflict of interest. And there's I think 4 or 5 items that you have to attest to. And if you can attest to those, then you can vote and deliberate and vote on those projects. And just for everyone's notice or information, there are parking permits available. That's not ruled by the FPPC, but I didn't want to create another slide. So go ahead, Kurt.
You might mention 500-foot rule says that we still, during the meetings, can be present and discuss, but at the voting.
At the voting night.
It's only at voting night that we don't have to, or we have to leave the room.
Right, you must. Yeah, during voting night, but during project review
We do not.
meetings, you do not. That is correct. So just very high level here, we have 15 neighborhood reps and 15 neighborhoods. There's the alternates, representatives and alternates. So I'm not going to go over each neighborhood, but I will go over kind of the terms and where we are with that. So as of today, we have a rep and alternate for New Monterey, which their terms will end in June of 2027, this coming June. And then in 2028, we have a long list. So we have, again, I won't go through all of them, but I'll pause so you can find your where you stand. And then there's a few coming up in 29, and then a few more in 30. So the 30s are the most recent ones. So I guess it's 4-year term. And as of right now, we have 5 vacancies. And I will go through those. So Alta Mesa, alternate, Deer Flats, alternate, Oak Grove, alternate, Old Town, alternate, and Villa Del Monte, alternate. So if you're in those neighborhoods and you know someone who would be interested They can reach out to the city clerk's office and submit an application. So then a few of the other things to cover, just kind of some resources that are available to the committee and the public. So on the city's website, there's the NCIP projects page. You can find that. This is just a screenshot, but I'll pull up the website here in a second. So you can find some very useful information. We've placed all the resolutions approving projects and budgets. And you can find the NCIP manual here, those sorts of things. You also have under planning, land use plans, regulations, you'll find neighborhood plans. In particular, there's the Casa Nova Oak Knoll area plan, Del Monte Grove area plan, the New Monterey area plan, Oak Grove area plan, Old Town area plan, and the Villa Del Monte neighborhood revitalization plan. And those are also available on the city's website. Let me go finish this and then I'll go back to the websites. So kind of give you a snapshot on the current status of the program, just some numbers for you. So in 2023, we added 31 projects. In 2024, we added 44 projects. 2025, we added 30 projects. 2026, we added 11 projects. Gave us a grand total of 116 added projects over a 4-year period. In that same period, to date, we've completed 51 projects. I think we're doing pretty good as far as not as fast as we're adding. We are on a pretty good clip here, completing projects. As of today, we have 71 active projects with a budget of roughly $22 million. So, yeah, I think that's the end of that. And then I'll go back, let me see here. Oh, sorry, no, one. All right, so that's that. And then, so kind of what did we do in 2025? We completed 10 projects. Fisherman Flats, entry walls, Airport Road replacement. We added 2 radar speed signs on Airport Road in Casa Nova Oak Knoll neighborhood. Old Capitol Site Master Plan, the Deer Forest Drive Elk Run utility boxes project, Virgin Avenue sidewalk installation, Jocelyn Canyon radar speed signs, Spray Avenue tot lot shade structure was completed, Veterans Park bocce ball court, the Recreation Trail bike repair station was installed, and we completed the Aeneas Bridge restoration. So I have some photos of those. So here you have Fisherman Flats and Casa Nova Oak Knoll radar speed sign. The Old Capitol Site Master Plan. Then we have Deer Forest Drive and Virgin Avenue. We have the Jocelyn Canyon radar speed sign and the Spray Avenue tot lot, Veterans Drive, Veterans Park bocce ball, and the Aeneas Bridge. And then we have here the you can see the bike tools, bike stand, bike tools on the rec trail. And that was the end of that. So then I can go to the city website here. I didn't have that pulled up as well. Sorry, I have to share it online. So just for everyone to see here, you could see this is the NCIP projects website. And again, like I said, so you have here on the far left-hand side, you have some resources that are available, including we'll update today's schedule will be there and the neighborhood map. So if you click on this, you can see where once it loads. But we'll have the map, for example, so you can see that. That's there. And then again, like some of the resolutions. So most recently, for projects that were most recently approved, you have that information here. available to you. And then you also have, we have the actual resolutions. So if you want to go in and see the actual wording, that should also be available to you. So here, I'll pick a different. But yeah, so you'll have city resolutions, and you can pull that information off of here and you'll know like when projects were approved and budgets and that sort of a thing. And then kind of to go back to let's see here. So you have to navigate. So for example, go to community development page. If you wanted to find out about some of the, let me see here, planning, you go to planning, you kind of have to look for things, but then land use, and then you can find, so example, those plans that I had identified. So if we wanted to look at the Villa Del Monte revitalization plan, you could pull that up here as well. So that's my presentation, and I'm available here for committee questions.
Are there any committee questions?
When we were on a schedule that started in January, we used to say you had to have the Form 700 filed by the end of January, you wouldn't be able to vote. I think there probably still is wording that says if you don't have your 700 filed, you can't vote. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if it's voting or not, but it's my understanding that it's a state requirement. And if you don't, then the clerk's office has an obligation to report you to the FPPC, and they have the ability to issue fines. So and then you could also be removed from the committee because you're not in, you're not in good standing. So, I mean, and if you're removed, then obviously you can't vote. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the path that I would take, in that if you're on the committee, then generally you can vote, right? Reps can vote if they're on the committee in good standing. But maybe that's some language that needs to be brushed up, but it is a requirement to fill out, to submit the forms.
Question on neighborhoods, we're still including the naval facilities or the military facilities as neighborhoods.
Those, that map has not been revised. But
It's not.
it has not been. So that is what's still on the city's website. The one that has the Presidio and postgraduate school, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Even though the military was very clear that anybody from those neighborhoods can represent.
Yes.
Any other clarifying questions? Great, so we'll close committee questions and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here in the public who'd like to make a comment? If you can raise your hand. So none, any online?
No, mine.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and move to committee discussion. Have any discussions? We can do a motion, right? Or no? Oh, no motion.
Nothing to vote on.
Discussion. Okay. We'll go ahead and close the committee discussion and move on to the next topic.
Okay. Share my screen again. All right, so this is item 10, where we're gonna bring up, there's 8 projects currently that are in need of some additional funding in order to complete those projects. We're not gonna vote tonight. I thought it would just be best to present the projects and allow for questions, and then at a later date, we can make a recommendation the committee can make a recommendation to city council. So the funding numbers available, what's available as of April 21st. So this was April 21st is when we went to council to present the most recent projects for voting for approval. Council did approve those projects. And with a budget of $6,018,767, we set aside $610,058 to be available for as a contingency, so to speak. And there was $79,340 remaining. So as of today, there's say $689,398 available for contingency funds. So the first project we'll touch on is the American Legion to Harrison Street walkway along Veterans Drive. This path improvement, so the original budget was $88,000. To date, we have completed the design of these improvements. So the path, including some improvements to the stairs that lead up the hill to Harrison Street from Veterans Drive. Based on the design, we have a construction estimate of $480,000. So the path length is 1,300 feet or a quarter mile. We're looking at 91 feet of new railing. So here we have some photos of this project area. On the left, you can see the stairs. And then here on the two photos to the right, you can see kind of the condition of the path. We have sections that are kind of submerged after rain. There's some that are were DG or decomposed granite that's kind of eroded away. And then we have some asphalt section. So the plan would be to kind of improve the asphalt section with some new edging and in sections that are broken to put in new asphalt and put in some new DG in areas that require that, and then add some railing. All right, the next project is Casa Nova Oak Knoll Park improvements, original budget of $125,000. To date, we've completed the installation of the metal fence, a shade structure, and park bench. We're needing an extra $20,000 at this time to install a food prep table with an umbrella. So some photos of what's been done. So on the left, you can see the fence. The center photo is that kind of barbecue picnic area. In the far, you can see, well, you'll see two shade umbrellas, and in the back, there's a third. That was the new one that was installed. And then the bench here, that's the new bench that was installed. So we're looking on the far right side of the center photo. This table would be removed, and then we'd install a new table with umbrella on this side, kind of on the building side of this grill. That is the proposal there. At Fairgrounds Road, Airport Road, street lighting project. Original budget of $150,000. To date, we've completed the design of this project, and an additional request of $432,000 to complete this project. It would include 21 solar-powered streetlights along Fairgrounds Road, with the bulk of them on Fairgrounds Road, and I believe 3 new lights on Airport Road on that corner. And this is what it looks like now. So the solar lights would be, I think they're 18 feet high, and would be over the sidewalk, would not be powered or connected to these overhead power lines. That would add extra expense to connect them to the power lines. The next project, Bruce Arias Way lighting upgrade, original budget of 35,000. With that, we've completed the design. We're requesting, or we would request an additional budget of $71,000, and this would install 2 wired streetlights. So you can see kind of the magnitude of wired lighting versus solar lighting. And this would be in this park area between, I think it's Wave, between the street and the recreation trail. The next project is Moonrise Avenue and Via Arbalest curb ramp construction, original budget of $25,000. Again, we've completed the design. Request of an additional $76,000. I think the original project scope was for 1 curb ramp. So based on kind of feedback and code requirements, we'd actually need to update both curb ramps on at Moonrise and Via Arbalest. So that would be an expansion of the project. So originally it was the southern curb on Moonrise, which is unimproved at the moment. But we would also look to work on this northern curb ramp on the opposite side of Moonrise, Via Arbalest. Fire Station 12, the next project is Fire Station 12 rehabilitation. So I'm sure you all remember, original budget approved was $1,050,000. We requested an additional $900,000. And now we've completed, we feel confident that we're completed the architectural design as of today. We're still working on building permitting. Hopefully that can be done here by the end of the month. So this additional $100,000 is for relocation funds to move the firefighters out of Fire Station 12 and temporarily house them at the Hilltop Park Center during the renovation process. So what's involved with that? We've been making some serious progress on this. So in order to house the fire department up at Hilltop Park Center, we would need a couple of improvements, including kind of a carport structure to cover the fire engine. We would need a shower trailer, restroom shower trailers. We would plan to place those here. Turnout storage container, because they need to have a place to put their gear when they come back from a call. And you can't have the gear in the same place where their dorm is, their house, where they're sleeping, just because of the carcinogens and other items that could be on the gear. So that has to be separate. So we would need those improvements. And then we're also looking at using one of the current classroom spaces to convert that into a dorm space temporarily. So we need to make some improvements to that space as well. So that's all that would be included in that request. And then I believe this is the last one. Solicitor Ball Field lighting project was originally approved for $422,000. We got requested an additional a 10% increase. With those funds, we've completed the design, and we have a contract in place at this point, and they're moving forward with, I think, purchasing the lights. The additional $50,000 that we're looking for currently is due to the condition of the electrical panel, breakers, and wiring at Solicitor Field. So here I have some photos to kind of show you the conditions that we have. This is the cabinet. Inside the cabinet, we have the breaker is unusable. You can see here on the bottom of the center panel, this is an extension cord that we're running inside of the electrical panel. That's rust. And here on the far right-hand side, this box cannot be opened fully to access it because the cabinet door is banging up against the actual electrical panel box. So this is the condition of, and the wiring is in poor condition. So in order to actually use the new lights, we would need to upgrade all of this. And they would remove the whole thing and put in all new everything. Breakers, wiring, yada, yada. So, oh, one more, I'm sorry, Del Monte Beach, cables along the walkway. Original budget was $30,000. This work has been completed, but there was an overrun of $2,840.89. That's actual cost. And this was done by the building maintenance crews during downtime and overtime. And as you may recall, they made some improvements to the cabling where they restored or replaced cable with some split rail to make some of these spaces just improvement, make them better. So that's the end of that presentation. Anyone has any questions?
Anyone have any clarifying questions? Katie?
Harrison Street steps, the history behind that project goes way back to the Eagle Scouts when it was completed and not to code. And there was money set aside and there was some, the actual build was done by the Scouts and all of that. And then it just kind of fell by the wayside and never got improved. That was an approved project. Is there a possibility we could just fix those steps? Steps are they're a safety issue. And the asphalt path, yes, that would be wonderful too. But immediately those steps, and I think this project's been kicking around since 2015, if I'm correct. So the history of those steps goes way back. And now it's morphed into, we paid for it out of our base allocation way back then. So it was, a minimal build, and now it's morphed into almost kind of an out of control project, it seems, cost-wise. Is there a possibility to go and revisit that original project and get it done correctly? It was supposed to have been corrected years ago.
Right. So I am familiar with the history, right? The long history on the stair project. Where we are today, it's a budget issue. We could look at breaking out the stairs and just do the stairs, and that would be a different request, a different amount of funds, obviously. And I can look into that and come back with that request next time. I'm not prepared to say what that would be today because I just don't know what it is. I can look at it.
Excuse me, my question, when you do break out a project like that, and I know we've done it in years past, does that mean totally new submission? We start over and now we have project, stairs A, path B, or can it still be combined and just phased in? Or how would that go?
And I think that would be a committee decision.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm willing to, implement it however, the committee would just like to or recommend to do it. But yeah, where we are today, we regardless of how we proceed, we're going to need additional funds. Again, the stairs would be significantly less. So I will come back next time with a proposal or information on just the stairs.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a clarifying question with that. So when we say the stairs, are we just talking about like the actual stairs or stairs plus railing?
So I think what I would do, so there are some recommendations for improvement to the stairs and railing. So yeah, I would come back to the committee with a request for say that as one complete project.
I think it would be helpful for us to understand, when we look at this, we looked at path as in trail. We did not look at walkway as in sidewalk. And so the question that we'd be asking is, this is still a path or a trail? And are we putting requirements on top of it that are not something that we have to do? Because we're accidentally making it into something that it wasn't before.
We are not making this into a sidewalk under any, I mean, the sidewalk requirements would probably quadruple this. You know, this would be, you know, a $2 million project to make it into a sidewalk.
Meeting permit. Oh,
I'll let Amy go.
It's sort of tagging on to Jamie's question. Is this a code issue? Are we bringing something up to code, or are we doing it because we think it's a safety issue? Because that
So-
goes all the time and then.
Right, there are some things that are, say, must do's, and there are some things that are nice to do's, and then there would be some, you know, like, I don't know what you want to call them. There would be some great to do's. I would say with this project, we're looking at doing the must do's and maybe some of the nice to do's, but they're none of, I mean, right, with the ADA requirements, right, it would need to be what, a minimum of 4 feet wide, the entire length of the path. There would be slope issues that we would have to confront. We'd have to provide landings. Right? I mean, in order to bring it up, say, fully to code, I mean, I know everybody's gonna say I'm crazy, but I mean, it would over $1 million.
But I guess my question is, are we required to bring it up to code? Because it's existing.
We'll have to find out during design.
I mean, we can, right, we have not submitted a building permit, so to speak. That would come up at that point. I mean, in order to do, I don't know how to answer that question other than, I mean, to bring it up to code would be a significantly more expensive project.
Clarifying question on the station relocation of Station 12. Is there radio communications for County Com to be able to call the guys in the bedroom that they're going to be in?
That's all included.
Okay, yeah, it's like, because you didn't mention that, and I was like, that's important.
So all of those types of things, right? So that they, right. Yes, their communication requirements, noticing the alarm system, all of that, yes.
I also have a question on the fire station. So are all of the things that are requested temporary?
Yes. They are temporary, with the exception of, well, they're all temporary at this location. The carport structure ultimately is planned to move to Fire Station 13 and be reused in that project.
Okay.
I have two quick questions. Going back to this Harrison walkway. Is a building permit required for some of these improvements?
Or the stairs, for sure.
And then we're not sure if building department would require these kinds of stairs to have railings, correct? It's unknown at this time, whether.
Well, no, we do. I mean, it based on the slope of the hill, we should have railing, yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is about the Casanova Oak Knoll Park improvements. Is that 20,000 just for the table and the umbrella? And is that the last part of that project? Once that's done, is that project then complete?
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question.
Two other questions, I better sneak them in then. One, the fairgrounds, airport lighting. So I remember that this project was putting lights on existing poles, and I don't remember that it was going to go around the corner onto a different street. So do we have the specifications to look at that?
I can pull up the original submission. I believe it did include So we're not going all the way down, Airport Road. It's going, I want to say like maybe 100 feet or so. It goes down to the driveway. So there is a driveway that exits Fairgrounds on the Airport Road side of the property. And I believe that the lighting includes that driveway. But if the committee, we could remove those 3 lights, it won't make a significant impact to the cost of the project. And then to install lights, to address the installing lights on the existing poles. I believe we did evaluate that during this project. And it wasn't feasible. Well, it would not, we would, since the spacing on the poles is such that there would still be like dark spots in between. No matter, and we looked at, for example, making the lights incredibly bright. That still didn't remove the dark spots in between the poles. So if the goal is to say have uniform, consistent lighting along the fairgrounds, then this solution was the best solution at the best price. Yeah.
And then I also had another question. The Moonross Avenue and via
Arbalest
corner is a commercial space. That unimproved one we saw in the picture is a commercial space, which in past lives, we just said was against policy. And so I think right now we're treating that conversation a little bit differently.
And we've gone back to the city attorney on this one, and others. And I think maybe the guidance has evolved. So we're at a place, I think, where the requirement can only be made if there's some significant improvement to the project, to the property, right? So if they were to remodel, right, make some significant improvements to the property, we could require them to install a sidewalk and curb ramp. Short of that, we cannot, right? So we're at a place where this project would solely be a curb ramp, and it would not be a connecting sidewalk. So it's kind of a middle ground, I guess we'll call it.
He wants to raise the hand, so.
For your knowledge, Chair, we do have one committee member online that has raised their hand to speak as well.
That's, yeah. Committee Member Johnson? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is just more of a question about this process we're going through right now. And I just want to give a little bit of history here. So let's say I'm going to remodel my bathroom. I'm going to include things like, where am I going to go to the bathroom while it's getting remodeled? Like in my initial assessment of whether I can afford to do it, right? So I kind of wondering why, or is this normal the way that things work in the city, that we would approve a project for tons of money to redo the fire department, and initially it wasn't considered, oh, well, we have to move the firemen and they have to have a place to sleep. I mean, I totally get that, but like, why is that an additional cost? Like, why wasn't that part of the original estimate? I'm just wondering, because it seems like there's a couple examples of that you presented tonight, and I'm just wondering, is that like the way it works?
No, I would say you're correct. I can say that it was an oversight on my part. When I was doing the budgeting, I never considered that we would have to relocate the fire department. And I did not consider a budget to relocate the fire department. So, I mean, and you're not the first person to ask me the question. So I will say it's my fault.
Okay, I'm not trying to put blame or anything. I've just wondered, like, how does it work, in government?
No, I mean, in an ideal world, we do capture all the costs. And I mean, I will say that, these, I think 8 projects I would say are not the norm. they have extenuating circumstances. I mean, we have significant, I would say we have more projects that we complete under budget than over budget. And I mean, just as a few I can point out, right? So the Via Paraiso basketball court and Veterans Park, I think will return roughly $100,000 to the fund when the final billings are in. You know, as an example of, you know, projects that we complete under budget. I mean, the fire station projects, just to, you know, elaborate, are much larger than our typical project. On every measurement, right? The scale, the dollars, you know, just who, you know, like the day-to-day operation, you know, the impact across the board. So, I mean, we just don't have in-house, right? We just don't have the experience with this type of project.
All right, well, thanks for addressing my question.
I'll take a little heat off of Reggie, because in my discussions with the chief, they actually were going to be housed with the PG Police Fire Department. And so I think the budget miss was potentially, it didn't work out that you could house everybody in the same. So I don't think that one's really on Reggie or the original planning project. The other question I have, Reggie, is you have a number of things here that could be holding you up from getting projects moving, because we have to kind of approve. When do you need approval from us? And I see our next meeting would be July 29th. Is that soon enough? What are your needs?
Oh, yeah, that would be soon enough. We have,
I hadn't thought about your needs.
I mean, we have, I mean, just for everyone's, right, just information, we have 71 projects that we're working on in one, you know, phase or another currently. This is 8, so we'll say a little more than 10% of those 71 projects. We have projects that are out for, you know, proposals. We have projects that we're, you know, working on contracting. I mean, we're in design on, I mean, so, I mean, I have more than enough to keep me busy. That is not a concern for me. I mean, the thing that I always, right, I mean, the issue is that, you know, the people that propose these projects want them done. And so, I mean, that's kind of where we are. In order to get them done, right, we either need additional funding, or say in the case of the stairs, right, we can modify the scope of the project. But, right, I mean, those are our two choices at this point.
It's time for public comments.
I have a question.
So I, since we're waiting, I assume we're waiting, that's what you said at the beginning, to vote, and I'm assuming there will be a number of things that transpire before that. I would again ask that we, oh, sorry. I would again ask that we see if the finance department can give us a full budget. It's hard, I think, to conceptualize what making a decision on $500,000 for the fire department is with the human impact, when there's, you know, thousands of other dollars going to projects. And they seem to be, my understanding is they're kind of layered by year at this point. And it would be really just incredibly helpful, at least for someone who views big picture first rather than little picture, is that we see where is all this money being targeted to, and how is that playing out in terms of the budget? Maybe there's plenty of money, but maybe there's like no money. But until you see it, how do you know exactly what kind of a decision you're making? So I would say, I know I've submitted that request in various formats to various people. And I just think it would be very helpful for the committee to understand the big picture when they're going through the little picture discussions.
Okay, I do have one question. So, and this might be a question related to future process. For some projects, we do like phases. So we do like the first phase is design, and then the second phase is construction. So they kind of go through two separate projects and there's estimates on those two separate projects. Should that be something we should be looking to do moving forward? Because then I feel like these projects were probably submitted as design and construction. And so then you're coming back for additional money, which seems to be related to the construction part and not necessarily the design part.
Yeah, I mean, it's a style, choice or question. I think for some of the larger ones, it probably makes sense to do it that way, design and then construction, if you want to say in a phase one, phase two, or multiple phases. For some of the smaller projects, I think we've had great success in doing a, all at once, approach. So, I mean, maybe it's, it's when we can look at them and say, well, this one is really big. We're going to need to design it and then we'll come back and get, request. I mean, but I guess, just to think out loud, right? I mean, I think maybe the problem with that is after it's designed, that maybe it doesn't get funding for construction. So.
Thank you. And that's what happened with one of the projects. And when you split it up, it gives the opportunity then to abandon it. And I don't know if people want to do that.
Yeah, I think there's certainly pros and cons because we're here talking about additional money that's being requested, and that seems to be, why is this, why are we requesting this much now? When the original project was budgeted to be something else. So obviously it sounds like there's pros and cons, and I think that's something to maybe look at in the future. I would like to open up for public comment. So is anyone here that would like to make a public comment on this topic? You want to raise your hand? Here, anyone online? Oh,
There's one.
I see you. Sorry. Anyone online?
None online.
Okay, we'll have you come up and you'll get
We got to.
so two. So we'll give you guys 3 minutes each.
Okay, so where do we?
You just wait 1 second, please.
Okay, I'm Suzanne Grimes and I'm a resident of Old Town. And I just wanted to address the Harrison Street stairs because we've been waiting for over 10 years to get those stairs fixed. And there are a lot of people, not only residents, but visitors at the park that use those stairs, and they need to be fixed so that they're safe to be for people to walk up and down. And I've heard many complaints about them, and I'm just hoping that we can get it addressed. And that's the most important part that needs to be addressed at this time, is get the stairs where people can walk on it safely, and you're not going to have somebody falling down that hill. Because believe me, they're used a lot. And people do go up and down those stairs. So it's not just people in the neighborhood, it's people that stay at the park, that walk up and down that path all the time. So I just want to stress the fact that we've been waiting over 10 years to get the stairs fixed. And I feel like that should be a priority. Just giving you my opinion. Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. Chelsea Linovska, Casanova Oaknell neighborhood. Just came from the parks meeting and this is relevant to a topic, don't worry, I'll connect it. And they were talking about the potential partnership that's gonna be presented to City Council on the 16th with the Boys and Girls Club of Monterey County and the Casanova Oaknell Park Center. Huge support from all the public comments that were present today. One of the things that I noted though is the cost overruns for the Casanova Oaknell Park with the table and the bench. And I'm curious if once the city council, if they approve and assign 2 negotiators, if there's a possibility that some of those things can maybe be tied up in the cost negotiation with this future cost neutral partnership that they're pursuing. Not trying to push costs off, but looking at the additional overhead, right? It might be an opportunity. They also have wants and desires that they're thinking about with space utilization for their programs. And if there's a way to just kind of intermingle some of that so that the city can save some funds and the Boys and Girls Club can potentially, I don't know what their needs will be. They only showed an inside picture of what they're hoping to use for the space, but some of the exterior property as well. So just something to maybe bring up as an opportunity. That's it.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to committee discussion.
So, one of the reasons we bring these things back to the committee is so that we can make a committee decision about the allocation of scarce resources. But it's also because we need to understand whether there's been a change in scope. Because we're not allowed to take the monies from one project and spend it on another project. And so that's kind of the conversation. I'm looking at these projects right now and I'm going, wow, this kind of feels like some of these are a change in scope. We got a $500,000 project on two things that were not $500,000 projects before. The reason this is important is I might not have voted for it if it was a $500,000 project. An $80,000 project, yeah, makes sense. $500,000, kind of concerned about what it is we're thinking about doing. If these are not changes in scope, then I'll also turn around and say, we need to look at our cost estimation process because we're way off. So that's kind of what's behind this today. Everybody's got great ideas, want them all done. We have scarce resources and we have rules about how we use those.
Just to piggyback on what Chelsea said, with that potential partnership coming up with Boys and Girls Club, if they could even offset percentage of that $20,000, because they have that wonderful picnic area in the back, and I can't see them not taking advantage of all the equipment back there. So maybe they can help contribute to part of the, if not all, of the funding, that $20K for the food prep table and additional shade structure. So it'd be worth kind of tossing it out there or discussing it with the Parks Department for negotiations.
Yeah, the other issue that I see that we all need to be aware of is the inflation. For example, we've all voted for what, 700,000 for this library? The time it starts and gets done, it's probably going to be close to $1 million. So there's $300,000 that Reggie completely is out of his control. All of these projects that we voted on back years ago, or even last year or the year before, those costs aren't accurate. We need to realize that we need to have money set aside because of inflation. And that's coming for every one of the projects that we have.
I'd like to agree with that and propose another approach to it, which is probably not, well, which is that maybe we shouldn't be doing this many projects for a couple of years. I mean, projects takes a long time to get done because they take a long time to get done. I mean, that's anyone who's done a project knows it's really hard to keep it on time and budget. And we routinely, it seems, my short time with NCIP, we routinely have a process that just uses a total amount of money as our stopping point rather than a real assessment of what we can do. And I think that we should do that. I think it would be helpful to the community. It would be helpful for us to get load off of the project management team. People would be happier because projects would get done, which right now the community is not really that happy, at least in some areas, about getting things done. So I think we have more than one option, putting money aside for inflation, but also being realistic about what really is possible.
Another discussion? Anyone online?
No.
So we'll go ahead and close committee discussion and move on to the next item.
Okay, so the next item, oh, sorry, thank you, Parker. The next item is voting for a chair and vice chair for the upcoming NCIP committee cycle. So I have a brief presentation, which I will go over, and then it will be up to the committee. So a requirement of the orientation meeting is that the NCIP committee select the chair and vice chair for the annual cycle. And then in the city's board governance, each board, commission, and committee shall appoint one of its members as a chair to serve for a term of 1 year. The chair shall preside at all meetings of the board, commission, or committee. And each board, commission, and committee shall also appoint a vice chair to serve in the place of the chair during the chair's absence. And yeah, so the chair and vice chair are responsible for running the meeting. And generally we exchange emails with them in advance of the meeting to set the agenda. And I think those are the main requirements. So that's my presentation.
Okay, so I'll open it up to committee questions. Anyone online?
None.
Okay, so close committee questions and open up to public comment. Is there anyone present who'd like to make a comment? Raise your hand.
Anybody else want to do that?
I know. Maybe that should have been my clarifying question.
No.
All right, we'll go ahead and close up and move to committee discussion.
I'd like to nominate our current chair and vice chair.
Knew that was coming.
Particular time.
Where's the door?
We've been through a really rough cruise, port to port, so to speak. I think we need to keep the consistency and the strength and the leadership and not change the captains in the middle of the cruise. Thank you.
Was that a motion?
Yeah, is that a motion? My motion, okay. Get that motion. It's a cruise.
Canary, do you want to be a chair?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to deprive anyone else of being chair if there's someone that feels very strongly or not very strongly about.
When you do a good job, you do a good job.
Okay.
All right, so if that is a motion by Glenwood, then we would need a second for that motion.
You already did.
Okay, thank you.
Keep up.
So Alta Mesa has seconded. So if there's any other further discussion? No? Okay, then we'll go with roll call then. All right. Aguada Oaks. Meetings will continue. Mesa.
Aye.
Casa Nova Oaknall.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Beach.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
Aye.
New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove.
Aye.
Thank you. Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline.
Aye.
Del Monte.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So next we have committee member comments.
I just want to thank Shaneri and Dennis for doing such a great job this last year and look forward to them chairing us again.
I want to second that, and I also want to say that, we have some new people now in the city, and hopefully we have a chance for everybody to understand this process better, see it work, see the great value that it achieves. This committee works really hard, and I want to thank you all for that and look forward to another season of the amazing collaboration that's going to happen here.
Of course, I always have to say something. So looking and seeing that we have 698,000 or 689,000 available in the ending balance. the projects that are gonna need more funding is a total of 1.48 million. If we have 2.5 million for this year minus the 3.5 million going to the city for the budget help, we're gonna have about 1.7 million if we need to fund all of those things. I'm gonna recommend that to the extent possible, particularly on the big ticket ones, that we put those as a additional project, like a phase 2 for that project or for that thing. But just kind of being the finance guy or one of the finance people in the room, I'm saying overall, you know, we'll be down to about 1.7 if we have to fund all of that. So there won't be that many projects in those, I guess, submittals that we'll be able to do.
Exactly.
Yep.
And other than that, great past staff presentation. Thank you.
A question on the projects that need additional funding. If we want to go back and look at that original project, we can reference it. It's online in one of those folders.
I think so, but if you can't find it, let me know and we can pull it up. So by you saying reference, you're talking about the original.
Right.
Application.
So we can look for the scope issues that were brought up.
Final comments? Not online?
No one online. Oh, there's one, Jill.
Hey, I wasn't quite calmed down from work when I started the meeting. I'm not really sure if I'm understanding something. So this is a general question. So the projects that we put on hold or put on the back burner with all those votes, and when we decided that we would prioritize the safety related projects, where are they sitting in space now that we have another session that we're going to be voting on more projects? Is that clear?
So the projects that were voted on and ranked, those projects are waiting for city council to make a decision. The remaining projects are moving forward in one way or another. Like I said, we have projects in design and permitting and proposal and contracting, construction, right? So there's many phases and we're trying to get them done. So as of this calendar year, we've completed 8 projects. So we're working to get projects done every day. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, partially, but then, we were prioritized based on safety. And it seems like, are the new projects that are gonna come up this session, or is that gonna be the same priority? Or, it just seems unfair to the people who, we originally got their projects voted in and all the neighborhood excitement, and then, okay, so no, we're not gonna do them. We don't have any money. We're just gonna really, really go for the safety stuff. And then now we're gonna have some more money. Just seems, it just seems chaotic to me.
It is chaotic.
What is, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, there's so many different things that come into getting a project completed that it's difficult to impossible to tell someone when their project will be completed, right? So, I mean, we just work on them until we can get them done. And I mean, I have been making an effort, I guess, to prioritize projects based on the committee's ranking, right? So if something is ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, fill in the blank and you get to 30 or whatever, we try and work on them in that order. We try and work on the older ones before the newest ones, but, right, I mean, there's different things that come up, or, some need coastal permits, some don't need coastal, or they need a building permit, or they don't, or there's something that we can do on an on-call contract versus having to go out to bid. I mean, and right, if it's on call, it's incredibly much easier than going, right? I mean, if you have to go on a proposal, then it has to get, I mean, the way the sausage is made, it's just so complicated that it's difficult to explain. I could explain on a project by project basis why something is not done if that's, an issue or a request, but generally speaking, there's just so many different steps along the way, and then we're limited by staff. So, I mean, generally, if something turns out to be difficult, it gets dropped, and then it doesn't get done because there's something that's less difficult that we can do, right? So it's difficult to make the decision to work on one difficult project till it's done versus you could work on 10 medium to easy projects and get 10 projects done. And the one project that's difficult might be very important to you.
Reggie, I guess I'm not like, critiquing the way you choose to do things and your department chooses to do things, because you guys are experts, totally know that, you're gonna do it the most efficient way. What I am wondering, I guess it's hard to express it because it's kind of a confusing situation, is that we voted as a group or a committee to rank projects based on safety considerations. Like we ranked the safety stuff first. So now we have those other projects that got pushed down, right? Because they weren't safety.
That's us. That's the committee. That's not you guys.
No, we didn't.
No, I think what you're asking is the process that we went through, the additional process of ranking the projects that were potentially going to be frozen. We went through that whole process. We decided as a committee to make the recommendation that the city council take, was it 2.5 million? 3.5 million from this cycle so that those projects can stay funded and be completed. So they're not going away. They're still there. Sounds like Reggie's actively working on them. And so that what we did, I'll say was a waste of time, but so what we did doesn't apply anymore because those projects still have their funding. So they never went away. Is that?
Well, let's say something ranked low because it was a neighborhood, park improvement or something, and we voted for it low on our ranking. What happens to those projects? Because now we have a whole new cycle coming up and very little money, so.
Okay, we'll take
I don't
note
know,
of that comment. This section is mainly meant for just comments. This is not meant for internal discussion ongoing. But we have noted your comment and we can bring that up for future discussion. Again, this section is meant mostly for comments, and I'm concerned that we are getting beyond that into this should be an agendized item. So I do want to note that. But we can continue to move forward with other comments. Thank you.
Let me say it this way. This last year was a very difficult and challenging year for NCIP. We had a lot of confusing things that came to us. And I appreciate the committee's forbearance to be able to deal with that. And hopefully we can go forward with a normal NCIP process that doesn't have that much confusion, which will help clarify things as we go forward. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments before we close?
On the same count, I want to just reiterate, it would be really helpful in clearing up confusion to have all of the things that we're working on in all of the different categories in one big chart with their budgets. Thank you.
So we will go ahead and close committee comment. Next meeting will be July 29th, 2026. We'll turn the meeting at 7:23. Thanks, everyone.
That's lovely. She's.